I'm very much looking forward to learning on how someone can hack a DAO. Robert, welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Okay, let me do a sound check. Is this too loud or it's good? Like this? Okay. Hello everyone, thanks for inviting me. I'm Robert, or known as r0bre online, and I'm gonna talk about hacking DAOs. So I'm a security researcher, contract auditor, former device hacker, and competitive CTF player. You can find me on Twitter. And I work for Neodyme. We're a security company that is like Solana native. We found a lot of bugs in Solana core and some major Solana protocols. And yeah, we're essentially trying to make Solana ecosystem as secure as possible. And I want to talk to you about like how to hack a DAO. And right now, I think let's start with like how DAOs work. I think there's maybe some newbies here. So essentially, I'm talking about like a typical case where you have a DAO governed by some DAO token. So maybe you have a governance token and you can like freely trade it on some markets. And anyone who holds this token can participate in this DAO, which means the more tokens you have, the more votes you have, and the more say you have in the decisions of the DAO. And it means like you create a proposal, what to do as the DAO, and then people vote on this proposal, and depending on how the vote went, so most people agree with it or not, then this gets executed or not. And yeah, there's a couple more settings, how you can set this up, like it has to be like a majority of 50%, or has it to be at least like 70%? Do at least 2% of people have to vote, or like maybe 50% of people have to vote, like of all token holders, and so on. Maybe there's like a council who can like veto stuff or stuff like that. So there's many different side settings, but actually I just want to keep it simple. So just think like a DAO with voting on proposals and then executing them. Very basic. So let's first talk about some hacks that happened in the past, because that's always a good source to learn how hacking works, by looking how it worked in reality. So I think like 2 years ago, Beanstalk hack happened. That was, I think, on Ethereum or some L2. Actually, I have no idea. And it was a DAO that I think it's like a stable coin or something. But essentially, they had this idea that they have two ways of committing proposals. Committing means executing in their language. And the first way was just normal, okay, people vote for like a certain period of time, then the vote is finished, and then it's counted, and depending how the count went, a proposal can be executed. And then there was a second way, which is an emergency commit that they invented. So after 1 day after the vote has started, and if 2/3 have agreed to this proposal, so we have a supermajority, then we can immediately execute this proposal. So it's like an early tipping mechanism. So something that just says, okay, if it seems that everyone is agreeing with this, we can not wait for the full week of voting that normally takes place, or like whatever time frame you set, but you just immediately execute it. And the problem is that they enabled voting to end and the proposal to be executed to be possible in the same transaction. And that enables flash loans, because flash loans work by borrowing money or tokens and returning them within the same transaction. So if you can't do it in the same transaction, then you can't do a flash loan. So essentially, someone was able to create a proposal, loan, and wait for a day because of this 1 day restriction. then loan like a shit ton of Beanstalk tokens or like other tokens. Actually, they loan other tokens and then go to like pools and swap these tokens for Beanstalk. And then they vote on their proposal, get like 2/3 of votes, and immediately execute it. And this execution will just transfer the whole treasury of Beanstalk to the exploiter. And now they have the whole treasury and they can easily pay back the flash loan. Yeah, so that's a flash loan hack. And that happened 2 years ago, and now this year, suddenly many DAO hacks started happening. For example, the Tornado hack. Tornado, I think many people know it as a notorious money laundering tool or a privacy tool, whatever way you take it. And they had a DAO, which I didn't know until the hack happened. And they had like some proposals where people could be like penalized for using Tornado wrong or something. And one day someone made a new proposal and said like, hey guys, this is the same proposal that already ran a week ago or so. It's the same logic. We again like gonna penalize this guy who like tried to scam us. Let's do this. And they just copied also the very same code from that old proposal, but they added like one more function to this code. And we have to keep in mind this is like on Ethereum, and there the proposals are like smart contract, so you can add another function if you want. And this function they added allowed them to call self-destruct, which would like delete the contract and allow them to redeploy the contract with new code. So people didn't notice, and they were like, oh yeah, makes sense, it's the same thing that ran already, let's just approve it. They approved it, and the hacker replaced the code, and I think they minted a shit ton of tokens to themselves, so they had full control over Tornado DAO. So that was like a proposal backdoor. And just preyed on people not looking into what the proposal actually does and just trusting the description. And for this upgradable mechanism, we have a similar thing in Solana, where you can just have upgradable programs. And yeah, if you have a proposal that calls an upgradable program, in theory, the person who can upgrade this program can change the code. So that might be dangerous. So you should maybe think about if you trust the person whose program you call in a proposal. And now let's get to everyone's favorite, because it happened on Solana. I think it was now 2 months ago or so, in October. The Synthetify DAO got hacked, and this hack was probably even dumber because there was no real exploit or anything. I mean, it was interesting in some way. So first of all, Synthetify was pretty much a dead protocol that had an inactive DAO. The last activity happened on there like a year ago, and every time there was legitimate proposals or anything, it was anyways just like 2 or 3 people voting on them, like the developers, I guess. And yeah, it hasn't been used, but for some reason it controlled a program, the Synthetify program, which held like 200K in assets. And you could buy these tokens for the Synthetify DAO relatively cheap, and the threshold was like very low. So to pass a vote, you only needed like 2% of tokens. And essentially, I think you could buy like for 5K or something, you could buy enough votes to potentially pass a proposal if no one will vote against you. So what a hacker did is they noticed all these, this opportunity essentially, and were like, okay, that's interesting, I could hack this DAO if no one notices what I'm doing. So they did something very tricky. They started spamming DAO with proposals. And these proposals were like SNY airdrop on Terra. So you click on it, and then you see there's a link, and it's like an obvious scam. So if you click on this link, you get rugged and your tokens get stolen from your wallet or something. So it's like, oh, okay, someone's just abusing this DAO to like spread their scam website. So people didn't think really much of it, if anyone looked at it at all. And they did this for like a month or so, and then they made more of these. And at some point, they added instructions to these proposals that would upgrade the Synthetify program. And no one voted against the hacker because maybe they thought these proposals are just spam, or maybe no one was looking at it at all. But essentially it passed, and the hacker was able to rock the whole Synthetify protocol. And then afterwards people noticed. And I guess this inspired someone. And then Indexed Finance, which was also an inactive DAO, had a similar incident a month ago. So someone noticed, oh, this is the DAO that has some tokens in there, like I think it was just like 30K. And they could buy the tokens for voting and like try to steal all these tokens again. And as this was running, luckily in this case, the developers noticed and rallied on social media and found people who still held some of these governance tokens, and like within the last hour of the voting time, they managed to stop the hack, essentially. So that was quite lucky. So yeah, now we've seen a couple of hacks, and I think actually they were kind of boring. It was like just backdoors and people not looking at what the proposal does, and yeah, the flash loan, that was the most interesting thing, I think. So let's look at some techniques maybe, like maybe you can do this better. Yeah, so imagine you want to join a new DAO. You're like, oh, this project looks so interesting, maybe I want to join this. And you look through their proposals. It's called legit DAO, so you know it's legit. And yeah, you're like, okay, does anything look weird here? And you might notice that we have like two proposals. That's like the initial community token mint and the initial community token mint fixed. And you see that the initial mint is executing with errors. So it's like failing, something went wrong. And then it looks like, okay, something was wrongly done, and then they fixed it, and then it worked and everything's fine. And might happen in the initial phase of a DAO that you configure something wrong. I mean, we're all just humans, right? So maybe it's fine, but let's look at it in detail. So why didn't this work? So apparently it's just minting some tokens to some account, like the initial community token mint or whatever, and turns out this account doesn't exist. And that's why this instruction doesn't work. So what would happen if someone just made this account and then tried to execute this proposal? Well, then it would work. And as it turns out, because it says executing with errors doesn't mean that this is not executable still. So anyone can still execute this after creating this account. And the attack is like essentially a proposal pre-mining attack where you set up a new DAO, and because during the setup you're the only holder of the token, you can approve any proposals. You can create a proposal and just not execute it. And maybe you put like an error in there, maybe you require a certain signer or some other way. And essentially this doesn't execute, and then maybe you run the DAO normally, and like a year later you can execute this proposal, and then you have like some kind of backdoor to mint more tokens or do something else. So that's attack number one, where users get attacked from a DAO. Thought that's interesting. So this executing with errors mechanism is can be abused also by users themselves, because so the problem is essentially it doesn't look like this proposal can still be executed. So people might think this will never be executable in the future. So say you're a developer who wants to develop something for a DAO, like I'm going to make a mobile front end for this app, which is like some kind of protocol, and I want to get paid 50 SOL for it, make a proposal, the DAO approves it, and then when it's run, it's like executing with errors. So you say, oh guys, sorry, the address had a copy-paste error. Let's recreate this proposal. And then you recreate it, and you get it passed as well, and you get your tokens. And then turns out you just fix the error in the first proposal, and you can get twice the money from the DAO. So this just necessitates that people don't realize that executing with errors doesn't mean will not execute forever. So it means it's still executable if the error is fixed. So next up, let's talk about proposals with multiple transactions, because sometimes you want to do multiple things, right? And let's first think about you have a proposal and multiple transactions, and they have to be executed in the order that they are proposed. That's also a problem, potentially, because it could be abused by someone to just get the first transactions executed and not the later ones, if some criteria are met. So for instance, let's think about a scenario like a DAO that wants to drop some tokens to protocols and then call a callback on that protocol. So first we drop to protocol A and then execute a callback on protocol A. Then we're gonna call drop tokens to protocol B and execute a callback on protocol B. So protocol A might have control over this callback to make it fail. So what they might do is receive the airdrop in the first transaction, make the second one fail, where the callback is called, and then protocol B will not receive their allocation. And this way A can have like an unfair allocation or something in the ecosystem, and things might be looking weird. So this might be an attack for partial execution. Let's think about another attack where multiple transactions are proposed and they have to be executed in order. Let's say we have a DAO with 1,000 DAO tokens. They're distributed to just 3 parties, A, B, and C, and the treasury. Everyone has 250 tokens. Everyone has the same voting power. No one's in control. Everyone has to agree on everything, right? Say we have a 51% threshold, and we have strict tipping, which means if a vote has reached a conclusion early that cannot be challenged mathematically, so say 51% actually agreed with this vote, then even if the rest 49% vote, they couldn't win anyways, so we can execute this proposal early. And now let's consider this. A proposes, okay, let's make a proper DAO that has millions of tokens and not just 1,000, because what's 1,000, right? So let's mint 1 million tokens first to A, then to B, then to C, and then mint 10 million tokens to the treasury. If we do all this, we have a shit ton of tokens for everyone, we have more liquidity, we can trade and whatever, it's gonna be great. So what could happen if this is approved? Let's say it's approved by A, B, and C, they think like, oh man, this sounds good. And then A goes ahead and executes the first transaction, only the first one. And now they have 1 million tokens and 250, I think. And now they have the full majority of tokens, right? And they can create a proposal to mint 100 million tokens to themselves, approve it, because now they have such a big majority, and they can execute it essentially almost right away, because they have strict tipping. And now they have 100 million tokens, and like 1 million and like 250. And now they can execute the rest. And this way, by having like multiple transactions in a proposal, you can essentially rock the DAO. So that would be one attack. And you can fix this by making this proposal not have multiple transactions, but multiple instructions in one transaction. So these have to be executed together. But yeah, if people don't know, then it can be a problem. And actually, it might be even worse because this order of transactions isn't even enforced necessarily. So if this order of transaction execution is not enforced, then we can even attack in such a way that we say, hey, let's mint 1 million tokens, but mint it first to the treasury, and in reality, A can just start with their transaction number 4. Yeah, so, but the idea that you can mint out of, like execute out of order is actually potentially necessary for some things that you might want to do with a DAO, so it might be kind of hard to fix these things. So actually, I think it would be a good idea to educate users on these things. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about a different type of DAO hacking, which is like just dirty voting tactics. Say you have like a bunch of tokens and you want to improve your chances of passing a proposal. First of all, it's just spamming a proposal. So the idea is that, okay, if I want to pass a malicious proposal and I spam it 1,000 times, I only have to pass it once, right? And the DAO has to protect against all my malicious proposals. So maybe DAO members cannot really vote on 1,000 proposals manually, because it's really annoying. Maybe it's too expensive for regular DAO users to pay all these fees. There can be different reasons why this can be tough. And on the other hand, we have then the attacker who just has to pass one. Luckily, this is mitigated to some way by having a UI in Realms, for example, that just lets you batch vote and vote no on like all the proposals that are currently outstanding. But there are other ways to abuse spamming, like the Synthetify hacker showed. So the Synthetify hacker used innocent spam that wasn't malicious first, and created a distraction to like decentivize users to malicious proposals, essentially. So they would see proposals and think it's spam and not even look at them. So that's another way to abuse spam, essentially. And another way to improve your chances is like last-second voting. So imagine you have a DAO, or you're a DAO member, and it just has like a 1% threshold because maybe most of the tokens are locked in the DAO itself. And you notice one day there's a sketchy proposal. You're like, oh shit, what's happening? Are we getting hacked? And you see it has no for votes and like 2% against votes. And you're like, oh, okay, everything's fine. No need to get my ledger out of my safe hiding spot and vote for, because the community is already on it. Whew, let's go to sleep. And then the next morning you wake up and like you see 1.1% have cancelled their against vote and now voting for. And you're like, oh shit, and this proposal has passed because you were asleep, and now all your money is gone. Luckily, this thing can be protected against with configuring something like a cooldown period in your DAO, where after a certain voting time has passed, only against votes are allowed. And you can still like take back your vote, but you cannot vote for anymore. So it's not possible for anyone to have a sudden increase of 4 votes at the end. But that's something you have to configure. So yeah, as I'm talking about protecting, here essentially the summary of protections that you should use to make your DAO secure. So first of all, every approved transaction or every approved proposal, you should assume that it can be executed, even if it says it has errors. These errors could be fixed and then it could still be executed. Secondly, if there's a multi-transaction proposal, you should think about what could happen if these transactions are not executed together in the order or whatever. Just be wary, essentially. Then there's features like signatories and councils that are advanced features in realms that you can use to protect against attack classes by having like more trusted parties who can assess proposals. Because not everyone is technical, not only core developers and smart contract auditors should be like DAO users, right? So maybe you can have maybe some technical users who can look at things and then have a veto right, for example. Then obviously set your parameters like thresholds and so on, voting period time with care, so that a vote doesn't surprise you in any way. Then sunset unused DAO. So if you have a DAO that's like old and not used anymore, it's better to close it down than to let it run and die, because you never know what's happened in the future. Another very important thing is to monitor your DAO. So maybe have a Discord bot that alerts you whenever a new proposal comes in, so you know when to vote early. Or maybe even better, have a special alert if proposals are sketchy, like they call the upgradable loader program, something like that. And lastly, every vote counts, so vote. Yeah, that's it from me. You can find me online. And yeah, if you have any questions, ask.